Hello and welcome to this episode of Somatic Self-Healers. My name is Leah McQuaid and I'm so delighted that you decided to join again for another episode. So we're going to continue the talk today about the loving presence. So the loving presence within, really hearing and developing that voice is such an important part of this journey towards embodiment, this journey towards coming out of survival mode so we can be more connected to our life and to the people around us. So we're going to continue this thread today. And I want to talk about ego personas. So this idea of ego personalities. And we're going to use the 144 hertz fork today in the Biofield to help shake up and move these ego personas. So what are these egos that stay in our way, right? So there's a lot of them. It could be Patty perfectionist. It could be the Debbie Downer, the depressed part of us. It could be the anxious ego. Our ego can show up in overthinking. Our ego can show up in self-doubt. The inner critic can be an ego disruptor, right? These parts of us that show up and really prevent us from hearing and tapping into the self energy, the loving presence within. So we're gonna, use the 144 hertz fork in the feet today. So the feet in Biofield tuning represent the entire body. So you might be thinking like, well, why don't we work in the mind? Because it seems like these ego personas come from our thinking mind, right? And yes, that's true. And I want to support us moving out of the compartmentalized thinking that really much of our society and the medical world has placed upon us, right? You have gut issues, you go to the gastroenterologist. You have skin issues, you go to the dermatologist, right? You have hormone things going on, you go to the endocrinologist. Is that how you say it? Endocrinologist, that's it, right? So where we're really moving into is a holistic view of our bodies. And that's why I want to work in the feet today, because the feet in Biofield tuning really represents the whole body. And also what's interesting, right, is that we can have a pain or we can have an experience of an emotion, right? And it could be experienced in one place of the body, but yet the root of it or the beginning tendrils of that distortion might be in another place in the body. So I like to think about the fascia here when we think about the whole body system, because fascia is from our head to our toe and it's in our entire body. It connects everything to everything. So I like to think about the fascia when we think about this idea of everything touching everything. And we might have a distortion or a manipulation or a tension or a trauma that lives somewhere in the body, in the fascia. And we might be experiencing that in the right shoulder, for example, right, as tension or tightness. But it could also be expressing in other places in the body, right? And so I just like to use this idea of fascia, of everything touching everything. And instead of the body organizing around that distortion, because that's essentially what happens, right? We have that body starts to manipulate and adapt around this tension or trauma or distortion somewhere in the body. And what I want to open up to today is starting to free up that distorted place in the body so that our body can organize more around the openness, the availability, right? The flow, right? And so, yeah, that's what we're going to do today. I'm excited about this tuning. So I invite, as I do in all of our sessions, to get yourself in a place that feels supportive, right? So you might begin by doing some movement. Maybe you shake your hips. Maybe you roll your shoulders. Maybe you make a sigh out, breath movement and sound, just helping your body begin to settle. And we probably, just to give you a heads up, this might be a little longer of a session. So I always don't know exactly when we're in a session what's going to come through. So since we are working both the right and left side of the feet today, this might be a slightly longer session. So just to let you know, by taking a moment to settle in, if you need some down regulating, which most of us do, most of us need that discharge, that release of that fight or flight energy, and also a moment to come into that parasympathetic, that rest, digest, nourishing place. So you're always more than welcome to take a few moments to really settle into that parasympathetic. Yeah. And we're going to start, actually, before we start with the 144, we're going to start with the 174. And I'm going to help get the Earth Star, what we call the Earth Star, adjusted here. So when we adjust the Earth Star, I find that it can really help us settle into more of that parasympathetic. So I'm at your feet, at the Earth Star at your feet, and I'm just encouraging the energy to come all the way down into that star, that Earth Star, not at your feet. It's about a foot from the bottom of your feet. And so I encourage you, for some down regulation, to just imagine that your breath can come all the way down into your feet. Breathing in and out from your feet. Yeah, beautiful. And like I said, you're more than welcome to pause this video if you need a little bit more discharge, if it's hard for you to kind of settle into the body and into this experience. Feel free to move your body some more. We just have a lot of work we're going to do today. So I want to get started right now in the Earth Star. Beautiful. And you'll hear me breathing a lot in my session. In all my sessions, it's how I move the energy. Beautiful. Remembering you have somatic autonomy during our sessions. Doing what's right for you and your body always, always. Okay, so we're going to start on the left side of your left foot. So the left foot are the stressors that we get stuck in. And when we're in that ego persona, one of those ego personas, whether it's doubt or perfectionism or Judge Judy, and we're judging ourselves or others. Yeah, it's going to keep us in stress. It's going to keep us stuck in the survival response. So I'm working on the outer edge of that left foot, trying to stay in camera view here too. So I'm just reaching out here. You may not see the fork, but that's okay. You can hear the fork. And I'm just listening in for any information that wants to come through. Clearing any of those ego personas, those ego identifiers that came in with you, passed down in your DNA, because we're on the outer edge of your field. Yeah, confusion is coming in. Right? Confusion can absolutely be an ego identifier, an ego persona, clearing some confusion. And even confusion right now, right? Or this idea that you need to know. Right? Need to know and understand. Whoa, that came off. Yeah, okay, that came off real heavy there. Yeah, this idea that you need to know everything that we're getting ready to go into. And you need to know exactly what I'm speaking about. And you don't. So if you don't have clarity, it's okay. It's okay. And the thought that you need to have it all figured out or be clear about all of this work before starting is just false, right? So you just let that go right now. Once again, that's just an ego identifier keeping you out of your truth. Yeah. Good. We're just moving in the field a little bit here. Yeah, so we're moving some things from the subconscious to the conscious. Yeah. Yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna grab the 144. Yeah, that's it. Okay, back to the 174. Yeah, so there might be some things that come up for you that you might want to journal about. And after our session is a really good time. So if you have 5 or 10 minutes after our session today, it can be a really good time because things are going to come up for you. That's going to help clear some of that confusion and bring a little bit more clarity, right? A little bit more awareness. So awareness is always the first step. If there's a stress, something, we're feeling stuck in a certain place in our life, awareness to help move in the right direction is always the first step. There's going to be some awareness that's going to come through, and it's going to come through kind of fast after our session. So you want to take 5-10 minutes and just free write, like let it flow so that you can capture what's coming through for you in that awareness piece. Yeah, because first we have to have awareness. Right, of that confusion or doubt or judgment, whatever the ego, however it's presenting itself. We have to have awareness first before we can move into action. And there's a few other steps before action as well, right? But awareness is number one. So if you can take anything from our session today, I would recommend really journaling. And you might have some things that flow through for the rest of our session as well. And that's okay to take a moment, open up the notes app on your phone or grab your journal, take a quick note, and then just come back to that settled, kind of present, centered part of you that can just receive and let the energy work happen here. Yeah. So the next step after awareness is acceptance. And denial might also be a ego identifier for you. Right? I was in denial of my fear for years. I just didn't even think I feared things, right? I was just so in denial of it, and I just pushed right through the signals of fear. Yeah. Yeah, and then I'd wonder why things wouldn't work out for me. So I was pushing right past the signals of survival, of lack of safety. Right? Fear is a big one. Yeah, so I just override the fear, my body telling me to pause, right? My body telling me to go slower. Saying, listen for a moment. Right? That whole saying, feel the fear and do it anyway. I like to think of feel the fear and bring in safety. Yeah. So it's not don't do the thing that makes you afraid, but it's like finding the right stretch or edge for you. Because I would just ignore the fear and go straight over to fearless. Yeah. Yeah. But if there's a subconscious fear around what I'm doing, if it's subconscious, right, then that vibration of fear is going to be in whatever I choose to do, even though my mind, my ego, right, wants to bypass the fear, wants to think I can do it. And you can, and I can. But we have to not bypass the uncomfortable, the acceptance of, oh, this is really scary. So there's that acceptance and then the acknowledgement of it, right? So we accept it and then we get to acknowledge it. And that's where a lot of people start to fall off a little bit in this work, right? Is that it's uncomfortable to acknowledge because that means we get to feel that fear. Yeah, so there's a few steps that we want to take before we move straight into action so that we can stay in alignment with what it is we want to create or do or have or be, right? Yeah, beautiful. I'm just moving slowly in the field, just listening. Ended up using the 174, a little bit more than the 144, but oftentimes I can come in with a plan and then once we get going, that plan can change and I just stay open to receiving and stay open to changing that plan. Yeah. That's it. Just moving. What's in the way? What's keeping you stuck in stress? That's it. And there's another step after action, and it's appreciation. Right? Yeah, appreciating my fear. Because it gives me a pause, a break, a remembering that I want to stay in alignment with what I create. So we can learn an appreciation after the action, right? Of like, yeah, appreciating what the fear taught me. Yeah, beautiful. I'm right by the body now, and bring some coherence to any immediate stressors in your life. Yeah, so just receive the sound of the fork. Good. We'll go ahead and drop into that left foot. Little bit at the top there. Yeah, okay, so we'll leave it there for the left side. So I'm gonna stay where I'm at, and you can stay where you're at, and we're just gonna change the position of your hologram. Don't need to overthink that. So we're gonna switch, and I'm gonna work the right side now. Yeah, right side of your foot. And this is where we get clarity on our next steps. So when there's some blockages here on the right side of the foot, we oftentimes don't know our next steps. We have a whole bunch of thoughts about our next steps, judgments about our next steps. Confusion again is coming up. Overthinking is a big one that's coming up right now. Like we overthink. So I want to invite you to come back to safety and that feel the fear, but bring in safety. Because it's almost like what's coming through is the fear What's coming through here? Let me listen just a little bit more. Oh, this is interesting. It's actually like a fear of not doing. Okay. So I would call this more of functional freeze in nervous system language, where I know this one very well as well. The doing just to do. It's almost like a compulsion to keep moving, right? And it's almost like the pausing and the stopping and the going inward and the getting clarity is the part that's uncomfortable. And what's coming up is the productivity standards in culture. Like the programmed belief that we have to be productive. That's keeping us stuck, spinning our wheels. Yeah. So clearing some of that programming around productivity. Yeah. Your worth is not determined by how much you produce. And that's a statement that your loving presence would tell you. So now we've made some space. So now we're going to continue to make space energetically, but I want you now to start to listen a little bit deeper for that voice inside. That loving, nurturing, accepting, that voice of divine guidance and love. Capital S, self energy. And what might your loving presence want to say about all of the doing, about throwing spaghetti on the wall to see what sticks? That's a image that really resonates with me when I feel like I'm getting into the functional freeze nervous system pattern. So what might your loving presence want to say to you? It's okay to rest. You've done enough today, sweetheart. You are loved. So scarcity is also coming up as an ego persona. So there's some scarcity around. It's almost like you're arguing with your loving presence. Oh, but I don't have enough time to rest. And that's coming from the ego. So the ego, the scarcity ego persona is arguing, I don't have enough time to rest. I have to do A, B, C, and D. Oh, and what's so beautiful is your loving presence isn't judging you for that. So, okay. It says, I'm here when you're ready. I'm always here, and I go on your timeline. So when you're ready, even for 30 seconds or a minute, to come out of that scarcity mindset, not enough. Not enough time, not enough money, not enough support. Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about the loving presence, is that it doesn't force. And it's there even when your ego's there. So you might let the ego be there. And also let the loving presence be there. So even when you're over-functioning and overdoing, even when you're in the actual action of the overdoing, of the overthinking, of the overgiving, there might be that voice, even for a moment, or that feeling of the loving presence within, just supporting you as you're doing life. So I want to really encourage you, so that's came off the fork really strong, or came off the puck really strong there. So yeah, there's quite a bit of fear and lots of the ego coming up here. And that's okay. It's okay. It's a practice. Yeah, it's a practice. And I just want to encourage you to keep going, keep going. Keep orienting yourself to that loving presence. And know that when that awareness, because there will be more awareness, once again, said this already, there'll be more awareness that's going to come through for you around how the ego is showing up. But now you have a skill, right? And just like any skill, it needs to be practiced. But you have a new tool that you can come back to, remembering that loving presence is always inside of you. Good, I'm right up against the body here. Just letting go of any confusion for your next steps. Because what's going to happen if you allow it, that journaling or that knowing that's going to come through, right? There is going to be one tiny step forward for you that's going to come through. If you decide to take that 5 or 10 minutes to journal, it could be, most likely for most of us, it's going to be a small step. And that's going to be an opening for you to hear more small steps. Yeah. So dropping in. A little bit there at the top again. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, okay. All right, my friends, take a few deep breaths, bringing your body back. If you drifted away a little bit, maybe wiggle your fingers and your toes. And grab that journal, open that notes app on your phone, because some things are going to come through. Really listen to not step 10, right? Not step 15, but step 1. And it will feel smaller than you want it to be. Right? Smaller than your ego wants it to be. But commit right now to that one step that comes through for you after our session. And as usual, I would appreciate a review, a comment, sharing with a friend. And if you'd like to join the community, you can find that link below as well. I send promotions and updates on what the Somatic Self-Healers community is doing, and I'd love for you to join. So, all right, my friends, sending you so much love.